We're going to start with an introduction. Then yesterday we saw some things about infrastructure. Today we are going to have presentations that have to do with data protection. Rodrigo Garza is from the State Department of the US, and he's going to talk about Open Run, which is something promoted by the US and other countries, and it has to do with promoting 5G in order to create a little bit a more competitive environment and to decrease costs. And it is connected with the last panel of yesterday afternoon. I believe that the last one was especially interesting because everything that they said about programming chips and the value chain, that the opportunity that Latin America has there. Good morning, Rodrigo. Can you hear me? We can't hear you. Now we can. Welcome. Sorry for the delay. You know that in Latin America, things are a little bit different. You live in the US, but you have Latin roots, so you understand that it's difficult to start on time. I know that I am going to give the first presentation of the day, so sometimes it's a little bit late. So let me tell you that we have 60 people in the audience here in the room, and from Latin America mainly, but we also have people from North America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and other countries. We have simultaneous translation. And yesterday, we had like a general introduction of all the topics, a special video from Doreen Bogdan-Martin, and another presentation, a video presentation by Vince Cerf and Andrew Sullivan, the Internet Society CEO. And then in the afternoon, we talked about infrastructure. First, the infrastructure of the Internet in general, and then an interesting panel on Wi-Fi 6 and the frequencies for 5G. And we talked a lot about 5G. And I believe that your presentation has an interesting focus on that topic. So I'm going to give you the floor, and then we'll see if we may have a conclusion and a Q&A from the audience here and the audience online. Thank you for your time. I want to tell the audience that our friends here in the room that the State Department in the US, that would be like the Foreign Exchange Ministry in Argentina, has been present in the conferences of the school. In the case of Costa Rica, they gave us grants for different, to offer to different people in Central America. The first time Christopher Painter came to the school program, he was the first cyber diplomat. He was an advisor of President Obama, and it was a great honor to have him with us in Costa Rica. And Chris has always been with us online or face-to-face. And also at the time, the US ambassador in Costa Rica invited us to his home. And since then, the State Department has been with us, helping us. And today we have Rodrigo. Luckily, he speaks Spanish. So I want to thank the State Department for its support and for contributing to the school. Now the floor is all yours, Rodrigo. Thank you, Olga. And I want to thank all the SSIG team for allowing me to share with you the perspectives of the US government as regards 5G technology and Open Run. It's a great pleasure to talk to you today. I would have loved to have been there, but I'm here in Washington with a little bit of a cold weather. The phrase "the future starts today" it's a frequent thing that we say when we talk about communication policy. It describes our current situation. The decisions that we make and the plans that we make today are going to have consequences as regards quality, scope, accessibility, and security of the digital ecosystems in our countries. I am the Assistant Director of the Cyberspace Department and Digital Policy in the bilateral matters in the State Department. The State Department created this new office in order to control cybersecurity, digital economy, and digital policies in a more articulate and comprehensive way. There's vital things for economic growth, security interests, and all over the world are vital in our diplomatic agenda and have a two-party support in the US. But we know that we cannot promote these activities in isolation. We need partners, allies, and that's why we highlight the fact that ally governments should have the tools and the necessary information in order to support their planning as regards telecommunication. To develop an inclusive digital future, we need to develop the next network generation in an adequate way, taking into account security, trust, openness, and interoperability since the very beginning. That's why the US has promoted for more than 3 years the global responsible deployment of 5G and the next generation, and that's why it's still a priority for the Biden administration today. Trust is paramount for 5G success and the future network success. We know that it's impossible to eliminate all the security risks. Nevertheless, it's quite concerning if software and devices providers designing the networks take advantage of their unique situation so that this has a negative impact on security and system data and process availability, which depend on them. Network users, whether it is governments, international corporations, civic organizations, or individuals, need to trust confidential information and critical operations in the telecommunication networks, for example, important registries, intellectual property, bank transactions, and electronic data. And that kind of trust won't exist if the networks are provided by companies that depend on authoritarian governments and can give access to the team without legal resources. Nevertheless, there are some news as regards the different models and the limited options for providers in the telecommunication device equipment in the last few years, especially as regards the security concerns that the US has mentioned. There are different alternatives that can increase the supply chain resilience and to contribute to decrease prices and to offer a higher coverage, innovation, and finally to develop a vibrant and diverse market of trustworthy telecommunication providers. All these ideas, such as Open RAN, open radio access networks that network operators and software developers and hardware developers all over the world are deploying and promoting today. The Open RAN has a global characteristic, and it is the most interesting one. It's not a government thing. Companies from all continents have highlighted the necessity of this and started developing open standardized interfaces that would allow mobile network operators the possibility to combine software and hardware to satisfy their needs.
This means that everybody can penetrate the market without managing the architecture. And the new carriers, one in Japan, one in Germany, and some of the networks in the United States are choosing to have Open RAN components. The know-how and experience becomes an asset for them that they can take and leverage in the market, as Bracket Unisymphony has demonstrated. The United States looks forward to leveraging the economic potential of 5G. We believe that this can be achieved without any sacrifices, without sacrificing security or economic and national security. We believe that we can resort to providers that can offer financing and lower costs in devices. Unfortunately, these agreements frequently come with hidden costs and hidden agenda. The United States is concerned with the installation of networks that can be disturbed or controlled by authoritarian governments that do not comply with human rights. There cannot be no trust when a state-owned company has no resources to live up to the challenges in the case of these governments that would like to control the data. The promises of these state-owned companies that they are not going to collaborate with governments or with countries cannot be fulfilled. The government of the United States acknowledges that many carriers are faced with limitations since they have to select providers or suppliers to deploy 5G and wireless networks of previous generations. So the competition in telecommunications may reduce the resilience of supply chain and have higher prices for carriers and consumers in the long term. When determining what measures should be taken to address this situation, our guiding values should include competition, choice, neutrality in terms of technology, the preferences of approaches driven by the industry, security, and innovation. One opportunity in line with these values is to develop open or interoperable networks or access networks or Open RAN networks. This allows for transition that would include a wide range of software suppliers or hardware providers when it comes to deploy functional features of the network that they use open network interfaces. This will allow better flexibility across the networks and to reduce the cost to benefit the final user, and to open new opportunities in the market for a wide range of suppliers or providers that can drive innovation through the ecosystem. Now, one of the main features or advantages of Open RAN is that it's highly personalized. This is very important So in rural sectors, networks demand a different architecture from the urban areas. It may be customized to small networks with less users, which is optimum, especially for countries with less population. Even though we believe that Open RAN is a key element for our efforts to increase the need of having more suppliers, other options will play a key role. That may include technologies like low orbit terrestrial satellites that can offer good return to the consumers and to the carriers. And they can provide financing for research and for development for new entrants in the new markets of new technologies. We require additional policies to support transparency in financing at a market price that can provide a competitive advantage to all suppliers. In the United States, we had the export scheme of transnational scheme that places priority upon information technology and communications to provide financial assistance in exports. The Commission in the United States is placing priority upon the imports in the same sector, including 5G for low-income and middle-income countries. Another important solution is the international harmonization of the spectrum as much as possible to allow for economies of scale for devices or for handheld telephones, so carriers can sell this in different countries. Each will have its own perspective to adopt its digital ecosystem, and each country will have access to different resources to achieve or to attain these aspirations. Hopefully, through this kind of dialogue, we will reach a common understanding on the best practices and on the right questions that we should be asking ourselves. And speaking of questions, I would give you the floor so we can have a Q&A. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Rodrigo. Precisely yesterday, we held a panel on Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7, spectrum, and 5G. And one of the topics that was addressed by this panel was the large number of infrastructure provided by other countries that is not the United States in telephony in Latin America. And I would like you to express your views if this may have an impact on what you're saying, who's going to be the provider or the supplier of that infrastructure, because you were saying deployment of countries that are subject to authoritarian governments. This is a topic that I would like to hear your views on, because I have some virtual or online questions for you apart from that. And when discussing this with friends, I work with mobile telephony, and I was discussing this with friends that work in mobile infrastructure, mobile towers, and all of that. And even though we have many companies developing interoperable open services and products, Open RAN is not considered as a mature, totally mature global standard to be applied to mobile telephony. I would like to hear your comments, and later some of the students are going to ask you questions. Thank you very much, Olga. That was a very easy question, huh? Open RAN is not only a new technology, but a new architecture. Let me explain this. It's a different approach to be deployed in this mobile network globally. And it's true that the economies of scale are not existent in order to facilitate this technology significantly across the world. However, we do have many networks that are being deployed. Some of them have been completed, like the one in Japan, this network in the United States. Trials have been made in Open RAM in Colombia, Argentina, England, Germany. So even though it's not ready to prime time, and we do have doubts in connection with some of the carriers, telecom carriers, to integrate Open RAN components to existing networks. The existing networks are new. Those were networks that started from scratch, like Racket to Dish. And the trials that we have ongoing hopefully are going to be very successful. This requires time to analyze the features of the networks with the different components of Open RAN. However, the important thing is that Open RAN is necessary for the marketplace that we have. And we would like to extend the options, the choice, or the alternatives. And given that extension, this will be transitioned to lower costs and deployment of networks that are going to be ideal for certain areas, locations, small islands, rural sector, more flexible technology or customized technology. Of course, there are doubts. However, we know that this is the future. When I was discussing this with Jose Fernandez, the Secretary of Energy and the Environment in Brazil, all wireless carriers, all suppliers told us that in 2 or 3 years' time, this is going to be the future. Of course, we have challenges that should be overcome. We need to standardize how we deploy equipment in the premises, economies of scale, components, but this is the future that is coming. Rodrigo, a student from Italy is asking a question. Her name is Valentina, and even though there's a different time zone, she's all the time online. She's asking if you have direct dialogue with the development of international artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and the MIT. And there's somebody in the room that comes from Brazil, is asking if Open RAM and Wi-Fi 6 will be a solution to a SpaceX and projects to substitute 5G in low densely populated areas. And one comment from Peru that says that Open RAM is a solution to be at the core of users and to facilitate access. So what can you tell us about the MIT and the question if Open RAN and Wi-Fi 6 could be a solution for SpaceX to substitute 5G in low densely populated areas? This is one of the hopes and aspirations of Open RAN that is going to help us, and it's going to help the governments and telecommunication companies to create and to build a network, especially for this sort of applications or situations. For example, in the case of small islands or small countries like Paraguay, or small countries in Europe or in Asia, that do require a special kind of network. It could be designed with Open Run with different suppliers, with an open architecture that eventually will have lower costs. And this will give us opportunities in the local marketplace to participate in this market, because you don't have to start with Nokia or any local equipment. Right now with Open Run, you can have small equipment that are used in networks or even software, and that could be designed or built in local markets. Like, for example, it could be produced locally in Croatia, Argentina, Brazil, or any other countries. So I believe that definitely Open Run is the appropriate solution to cover these applications where you have people in remote areas that do not have access to the internet, or it's very difficult to deploy the high towers that interoperate with 5G. Open Run does not use tall towers, and with that height you can even cover the rural sector or the rural areas. In the case of artificial intelligence, yes, we are involved with emerging technologies like machine learning, cloud computer, artificial intelligence, etc. For now, we have a lot of partnerships with different corporations, and we do have, or we organize workshops across the world. We have one that is called Artificial Connect, or Artificial Intelligence Connect, which indeed is taught in Brazil. I think this school was taught in August or September, and we have one coming up in India next month. Oh no, it's this by the end of this month. And so we have efforts and initiatives that are conducted to work along the lines of artificial intelligence, and with member countries and with friends like the European Union, England, Japan, Korea, etc., and other countries in Latin America, in order to develop artificial intelligence in such a way that can take the guiding or the necessary guiding principles. And we even discuss of building wireless networks. Thank you, Rodrigo. Any other questions from the audience? Could you introduce yourself? Yes. My name is Lorenzo Martinez from the Dominican Republic. It's great to have the destruction of this new technology. However, from the point of view of design, we do not consider the issue of security. So how do you approach this issue of cybersecurity when you have these customized deployments? Even though you have new technology, the inherent risks are pretty high. So how do you approach this? Muchas gracias. Thank you, Roberto, for this question. And greetings to the Dominican Republic, because I work with your government and I am very excited about going and traveling once more to Santo Domingo. This is very important for us, especially with the emergence of these new technologies. We would like to teach training courses and also technical assistance. And in our office, where we channel cyberspace and digital policies, We provide foreign technical assistance, and we are highly involved in training courses in cyberspace. Indeed, we do have some programs underway in Latin America, and we have some dialogue with some of the countries, including Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, and those companies that join these efforts in the Democracy Alliance and development. So we're working closely to provide them with training in cybersecurity. And we have seen many attacks across the world, especially in Costa Rica, Albania, and other countries. Many times, countries do not tell whether they were attacked or not. However, our policy is that we have to file that claim, or we have to report it so we can prevent this in the future. And also we can help those organizations and prevent criminals from making further attacks. Any further questions for Rodrigo? Thank you very much, Rodrigo, for your time, for your patience, and for having addressed this conference in Spanish. Thanks a lot. It's easier for everybody because most of the students speak Spanish, and we do have people in the room that speak Portuguese and English, but most of us speak Spanish. We'll be at your disposal to communicate or disseminate any information that you consider important with our students and with the training courses. And greetings to the Department of State that is always collaborating with us. I would like to acknowledge the students for making the efforts and the South School of Internet Governance. Hopefully you can come to the United States once again. And you can come to the OAS that is 5 minutes away from my office. So probably you can come, and please keep in touch. You can contact us through our colleagues in the Embassy of the United States. We'll be at your disposal to help you out if you want to extend this collaboration or partnership even further. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Tobin, Nelson, and Soledad from the Embassy of the United States that were our point of contact. Thank you very much. We had great memories of the OAS Summit in Washington. A round of applause for Rodrigo. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Have a nice day and have a nice week. I know that you have a busy agenda for this week. Thank you very much. Thanks. Great.